Genius back with you once again, and coming to you tonight on the heels of Barack Obama's speech regarding the Libyan situation. I wanted to come on out and get my 2 cents in here, my reaction to it, as quickly as I could. So what you're going to see right now, just to give you some groundwork for this, what you're seeing right now is my immediate and unfiltered reaction to what we've just seen on Obama's speech. As I customarily do in these situations, I shut the TV off the second that his speech ended. I did not avail myself to hear any of the pundits or the talking heads on either side. I wanted to give you the straight shoot on what I think of this without any influence from anybody else. I'm sure I'm going to hear those pundits in the next few hours as I go to editing this and so forth, but I wanted to give you my immediate reaction, unfiltered, so you have that. Something really you won't get anywhere else in media or journalism at all. So tonight's speech was about the Libyan military issue. That's something that's been extremely controversial for the last several days, ever since the weekend when Obama authorized military intervention in Libya. And let's start off first of all with my initial thoughts this weekend, before the speech tonight, when I initially heard that Obama had authorized this. This is a strange situation for me, because I know some of you out there probably think I'm a partisan hack, but if ever there was an issue out there that proved I'm nobody's partisan hack, it's this one. My opinion on this issue seems to be at odds with both sides of the political aisle right here. I don't really fully identify with the left or the right on this particular thing. First and foremost, I personally am in favor of military intervention in Libya. I personally am in favor of deposing Muammar Gaddafi and his regime. As I said to someone this week, any excuse to bomb the hell out of Gaddafi is good with me. He's been a thorn in our side for decades. He's been a thorn in the side of the Middle East for 40 years. And in my mind, the house cleaning that needs to take place in the Middle East cannot fully happen as long as Gaddafi and his like are there. Gaddafi is part of the overall problem of Middle Eastern culture. And there is a culture that ties Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda and Ahmadinejad in Iran and countless others. Note I said a cultural tie, not an organizational tie. I'm not telling you that Gaddafi's part of Al-Qaeda or anything else, but it is a culture and a belief system that brings rise to people like a Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein or groups like an Al-Qaeda or a Hezbollah. And that is the root cause of the problem. I've said it many times in terms of our actions in the Middle East that, you know, Al-Qaeda is not the disease, Al-Qaeda is the symptom. And so I'm always a little worried when I hear people say that, okay, we're at war with Al-Qaeda. No, we're at war with something much bigger than that, or at the very least we should be. And I think Gaddafi's a part of that overall influence that needs to be eradicated from the face of the earth. So in that respect, understanding that I am in favor of military action against Gaddafi and Ahmadinejad and any of these other yahoos out there, it did come to pass that essentially I agreed with Barack Obama's decision. Now, this is probably the first time in 2 years that I can say I agreed with Barack Obama on something, but really I did. I thought that military action was justified and that Obama made the right decision. Where I had a quarrel with him coming into tonight was the way that he arrived at that decision. In discussing this with other people through the week, I've often used the comparison to the algebra class you had back in high school that I'm sure many of you had. If you remember, if your teacher is anything like mine, Mr. Adams, my algebra teacher, always when we had our homework assignments, he would always tell us we had to show our work. And that, you know, you'd put your answer down there in the paper, but you wouldn't get full credit for the problem just by having the correct answer. You had to have the correct answer and demonstrate the proper process at arriving at that answer. So if you had the right answer but you didn't have the right process, you'd only get half credit for the problem, or you get no credit, something like that. And I found a similar situation with Barack Obama in the way that he arrived at the decision for military action. I agreed that it was the right answer, but when I looked at how he got there, that was troubling. That was something I could not advocate. It seemed like in the initial days of this that most of Obama's mindset was sort of a situation of putting America in the background and in kind of a non-leadership role. And it almost seemed as though we reacted to what Europe wanted and what the United Nations wanted and what some in the Arab world wanted, and that we didn't drive this thing. We weren't the ones out in front saying, come on, get behind us, we got to get rid of this guy. Instead, it just seemed like, oh, well, everybody's going to go attack Libya, we ought to go attack them too. So that was kind of troubling to me. So that's why coming into tonight's speech, I wanted to see if some of that concern on my end could be assuaged. I wanted to see if Obama would show some leadership and succinctly say, here's why we're in Libya, here's why we should be in Libya, and here's why we're leading the charge. Unfortunately, I don't know that Obama successfully did that. Now, make no mistake, I'm always behind our military, and I still agree with the decision to send our military into Libya. However, I'm in favor of that decision if we're sending them into Libya the right way and for the right reasons. And I'm not convinced that we are after tonight's speech. In fact, I'm less convinced than I was before Obama spoke. You know, I've always believed that if you are going to send the military in somewhere, and before any of you start calling me a war hawk or anything like that, make no mistake that I take the use of military force and putting our men and women at risk, I take that very seriously. I don't think that you do it unless you are in a situation where you need for the military to go in and be the agents of change. That you don't put them in harm's way just to maintain a situation, or you don't put them in harm's way just to kind of make time while others do the work. You send the military in to solve a problem, or to solve a series of problems. And the gist of Obama's speech tonight, or the impression I got, was that he wasn't doing that. That I don't know that he's sending them in to win. I don't know that he's sending them in to reshape our influence in that part of the country, or that part of the world, I should say. I don't know that he really cares how much we influence that part of the world, and that's rather worrying to me. And I'm almost at the point of saying, if you're not going to send the military in to exert our influence and our will, then don't send them in at all. But yet he has. By that criteria that I just mentioned, by sending the military in to win, sending the military in to reshape and assert our influence, by those criteria, I feel like Obama failed tonight in his remarks. Several times, he mentioned in his speech that America's role in this conflict would be limited or would be supporting in nature. That we were not taking the lead role and we were not going to take the lead role. And again, I have to say, if we're not leading the effort, why be there? Why put our men and women in harm's way to do the will of somebody else? Why send our men and women into battle to accomplish somebody else's goals? I don't get that. I don't understand that. Don't get me wrong, I have no problem sending other countries' men and women into battle to satisfy our goals. But we don't do it with our troops for someone else. But that's what he's asking us to do, it seems like to me. Now, Obama did make the point that taking this type of tact of a reduced influence would reduce the risk and the cost involved to America, and there might be some truth to that, but what he overlooks is that it also reduces the amount of influence we have in the region. And that, to me, is inexcusable. America is a leader. Our culture is a leadership culture. It always has been. That is what has made us the country we are today. That is what has basically helped us survive almost 300 years. 250, 300 years. That we are a leadership culture. We don't go along to get along. We see the world, we make decisions, we go with it. I don't think Obama's doing that here. He doesn't want us to influence or shape that part of the world. I believe if he does feel that way, he sure did a poor job of exhibiting it tonight. He even went so far as to say, and I'm paraphrasing here, that we will not broaden our military mission to include regime change. Now, I hate to sound like like I'm beating a dead horse here, but as I said earlier, if you are going to send our military into action, if you are going to risk the lives of America's best and brightest, then you must do so only in situations where the outcome is to solve the problem at hand. The problem at hand is Gaddafi being in power. So if we are not going to send our military over there to change the regime, then why send them over there? That regime needs to be changed. It's one of many in that part of the world. And we need to be out in the forefront of doing it. We need to show that part of the world that we can be effective, that we can influence the outcome. They think we're weak right now, the Middle East does. And in seeing this display tonight, they're really going to think we're weak, and they're really going to continue their assault on us. They're like a shark that sees blood. They're seeing more blood even now.